All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Pigskin Banter. I'm joined by our normal hosts in Ali and Shreyas. Bilal, once again, is a no-show, but who knows? Maybe he'll show up for 2 seconds to talk about how he's now renouncing his Eagles fandom or whatever it was he was going off in the Discord chat. And Jess is still dead, so rest in peace, Jess. This week we'll be reviewing Week 14 of the NFL, and we'll be looking over our NFL tier list. And boyos, good lord, this week was interesting. We had pretty much every team in the playoff hunt lose. Most teams in the playoffs lost. It was just a lot of upsets this week. And I don't know if I understand the NFL anymore, but our point last week where we said the 49ers are the only Super Bowl caliber team, I think that point still stands. I'm pretty sure at this point, if the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl, it'll be the biggest disappointment and biggest choke in history.
They are clearly the best team in the league. Even though my boy Baby Palomalu Hafunga, I'll always call him Baby Palomalu, even though he's out for the season, the 49ers are still kicking ass. They're still a very good team, and they're definitely the favorites to win it.
Right, it would take a CMC or Debo or something like that. It would take one of them to get injured again for them to be stopped at this point, in my opinion. Just nobody in the AFC looked good this week. You had all the Chiefs lost, Jags lost, Dolphins lost, Ravens won, but I mean, are we really going to sit here and act like that was an impressive? Like, yes, it was a great game by Lamar, but it wasn't like that they blew the Rams out or anything. It was a close game against the Rams, which shouldn't be happening this time of year if you're the Ravens. And so pretty much all the division leaders lost. You had the Texans, Colts, and Steelers all lost, all the teams that are trying to make the playoffs. And now the Broncos are one game out of the division lead, I believe. And yeah, who knows? And so the Chiefs could end up sliding if the Broncos keep winning and the Chiefs can't figure it out. But yeah, disaster this week across the NFL. And if you were trying to bet this week, I am sorry for you because you probably lost money. Alrighty, let's take a look at our schedule. I know we talked Friday about the Patriots Steelers game. Ali, now with more time to think about it, any perspectives change on this game? Oh, and let me pull up our tier list. Any perspectives change on this game?
Yeah, the Steelers ain't making the playoffs. Season's kind of over. It's a wash. And there was recently a report that dropped just a few hours ago saying that Mike Tomlin is guaranteed to keep his job for next season. Which, I mean, we all kind of knew that was going to happen. I mean,
Yep.
Steelers were never going to fire Tomlin, but
Right.
just to
Alrighty.
hear that, like,
Yeah.
that, you can't say someone needs to go without listing a decent replacement. I understand that, and I'm fully with that, but at the same time, Mike Tomlin, his era is coming to a close. Maybe, like, his contract does expire at the end of the 2024 season, so maybe that's when the Steelers will move on.
Yeah.
But this team, especially with Mitch, is not a playoff caliber team. They have the most expensive defense in the league, yet rank like 30th or 31st in yards allowed per game, which just isn't good enough. If TJ Watt's not getting sacks and turnovers, then the defense isn't doing anything. And not to mention, TJ Watt got a concussion in the first quarter of that game, first play of the game, by the way, and he played through it. And you could tell throughout the whole game the man had a concussion because he was just off the whole game. He
Right.
went in, he changed his visor because light sensitivity or something like that.
Oh my
And he
God,
went
he
out there and
shouldn't have been
kept playing.
playing.
The Steelers need to be investigated for that, in my
think
opinion. I
they
mean,
already
that's
announced.
kind of shameful. What's up, Trace?
I think they already announced they're going to be investigating.
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay, yeah, because they definitely deserve to be investigated. How does a guy have a clear visor, gets a knock in the head, goes into the blue tent, and comes out with a dark visor, and he's listed out with a concussion the next day? The
Yeah.
Steelers knew damn well he was playing through a concussion and sent him out there.
Right. Yeah. That can't happen. All right. So Steelers, is it just miss or are we down to pain territory, Ali? Where are we at for them?
Now we're not paying. I mean, we're gonna finish 9-8 like we always do. This is just normal for us.
You
It's
really
not
think they
pain.
get two more wins?
It's the most Steelers. If losing to the Cardinals and the Patriots back to back is the most Steelers thing you can ask for, then somehow beating the Colts is gonna be the most Steelers thing you can ask for.
That's true. The Colts did just lose this week, so. All right, Steelers down to just miss. We'll fill in that gap later. Patriots, and honestly, while we're down here, we can talk Jets and Giants a little bit too. I'm thinking at this point that, as bad as Washington is, like Washington still has an okay enough record. Do all these teams? Do we just bring back the trash tier and just? I don't even know if they're all trash. I think they might deserve to just go to bad. Like, I don't even know what to do with these teams. The Patriots are like bad, but like again, they beat the Steelers. They've been a scrappy team in certain games. Recently, they've been horrible, but then they beat the Steelers. The Giants again get a win with Tommy DeVito against a Packers team that's looking to make a playoff push, and the Jets obliterate the Texans who are looking to make a playoff push. So I don't know. I think pretty much all these teams, except for the Commanders who didn't do anything this week, might deserve to just be bumped up to bad tier.
I don't think that the Patriots are on Tennessee's level, if I'm being honest, or
Okay.
Chicago's level.
So how about
I
this?
mean, I will.
How about we just get rid of second least and we'll do that and keep that there. We'll do that for now.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when you look, when you look at it, I mean, they're not bad. I mean, it's just like I say, it's they just they'll stay in a lot of games. I mean, we saw that yesterday. We'll get into that later on. It's just they just were unfortunate with getting the wrong quarterback. I mean, that's how it is. Everyone's aging, and boom.
Honestly, boys, do the Jets need to go back up to pain? We had them in pain for a while this season, and then it just got worse and worse. I think it might be back up to pain at this point because now what do you do about the Zach? Like, now how do you feel about the Zach Wilson situation? He's horrible, horrible, horrible. Then he goes against the Texans, who have been good defensively recently, and he balls out. And I believe one of the players said, Zach Wilson basically told him, I have nothing to lose. What are they going to do? Bench me again? So he went out and played like he had nothing to lose, and he balled out. With that defense, I think they might deserve to go back into pain.
I would think because of like the false hope that they're probably gonna get.
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
probably.
because now we kind of have confirmation that if Aaron Rodgers was playing, they definitely would have made the playoffs.
Right.
So
Yeah. All right.
that's definitely pain.
Jets, back to pain you go. All right. And Texans, how are we feeling about the Texans? I know we switched the Jags and Texans, and because of that was because we at the time we thought Trevor Lawrence might be done, and the Texans had a better schedule. I am immediately regretting that decision. Not that I think the Jags are going to necessarily do well. What is going on with Trevor Lawrence though? Has there been an update? Because he didn't look himself the other game. He just didn't look right. He's clearly playing through injury, and I don't think the Texans win the division, but I do still think their schedule is easy enough that they still hold on to a wild card spot, especially with the Steelers falling out of it now.
Yeah, I don't know if that was Trevor Lawrence playing through an injury looking bad, or if that was just the Browns defense making him. Because the Browns defense will make a lot of people look bad. Let's be honest.
That's true. He did have 3 TDs. It was the 3 interceptions that was the problem. All right. Let's do this for now. Let's swap these two teams out. Jags, you can go here. And we'll leave it at that. And we can talk a little bit about Browns-Jags, actually, while we're at it. Yeah, so the Browns defense looked back this week. I mean, they still gave up 27 points, but, I mean, they got the Jags turning over 3 times through the air. Joe Flacco probably played one of the best games of his career. He was so good for them. And he... What was that?
We got 2012 playoffs.
I said one of. I didn't say the. I said one of. And honestly, is Joe Flacco, just for this game alone, is that the best quarterback performance for the Browns of all time? Like, I'm not saying he was legendary, but the Browns quarterback history is not good. That genuinely may have been one of their greatest QB performances of all time. That's more of a dig at.
Well, it depends on Depends on what Browns we're talking about. Are we talking about like the Browns that date back to what like Bernie Kosar and those guys? Or are we talking about or the Browns that came as an expansion team, like the
Expansion
early
Browns.
2000s?
Expansion Browns.
Oh,
He did have one intercept. I'm sure Baker probably had one game that was better than that. Like, at least when Baker was hot. But, yeah, Joe Flacco is making an argument for one of the best Browns quarterbacks of all time, and that's depressing. That is so messed up. Browns. I think Browns. Honestly, based on that Jags win, I think the Browns end up in a wild card spot. I really do, especially with the Texans loss this week, Colts loss this week. I think the Browns actually will end up willing their way defensively to the playoffs, especially now that they have Joe Flacco in. Not that Joe Flacco is great, but I mean, it's definitely an improvement from what they've had. And their schedule remaining is the Bears, who actually, funny thing is, their schedule remaining, I would tell you 3 of these 4 games before this week would probably be wins, and they'd probably lose one. However, those 3 teams that they're playing all won this week, and the one loss I would have thought lost this week. So that's funny. They play the Bears, the Texans, the Jets, and the Bengals. And usually I would have been like, yeah, they probably win 3 of those games, but who knows now. But I think the Browns, honestly, with Joe Flacco, I think that helps relieve some of that pain. I cannot believe I'm saying that in the year 2023. But pulling off a win over the Jags, and Myles Garrett looking a bit better than he has been, I think Browns honestly might make the playoffs at this point.
I don't know. I have a kind of a feeling that maybe it's a Steelers fan in me, but Joe Flacco's probably gonna crash back down to earth at some point. Maybe if it, if he can win against Chicago, then that probably would be enough to get him in.
I
Right.
think
One
Joe
thing's
Flacco.
for sure that they'll get in over the Steelers.
I think
Okay.
Joe
So
Double A Ravens. I still think he's a Raven at heart.
All right, let's put him in just miss for now until we get to both the Colts and the Broncos, and then we'll figure out which 2 of those 3 teams are making it in. So we'll get
yeah,
there in a minute. Let's look.
Shreyas.
Oh, go ahead.
Wally, what was it?
Oh, I just want to say that what if the Browns go into Baltimore in the playoffs, and then we have a playoff Joe Flacco playing against Baltimore?
Oh boy. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, like, I
What,
don't know.
dude? What if playoff Lamar shows up again and they actually lose to Joe Flacco?
Imagine playoff Joe going into Baltimore and beating playoff Lamar.
That's not much of an accomplishment, but yeah, it's.
Dude, do you think Ravens fans would argue they should have kept Flacco at that point?
You'll be surprised how many dumb fans we have out there. You'll be surprised. We have fans that are asking to bring back Marcus Peters. I'm like, no, why the fuck would we want Marcus Peters back?
Right. Alrighty.
There are fans that are bring back Marcus Peters. I'm like, are you guys fucking retarded? Just because Marlon Humphrey did not look like himself on one drive in his first game back from a calf problem, you want to be like, let's get Marcus Peters back. You see how bad Marcus Peters looked in fucking Vegas?
Yeah. All right. While we're discussing
Yeah.
these AFC teams, let's look at Bengals Colts and so everybody sat there and went Browning. It's one game. It's one game. It's one game. It's now 2 games. Browning is looking like a legit backup. Like he's looking solid for them. The Bengals put up 34 over the Colts. Colts should have gotten a win this week, and they just completely crapped the bed. This game was pretty much over early. It just Colts really couldn't get momentum going in this game. Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of the wrong Colts game. Sorry, this one they had it tied at the half, right? And then they couldn't score after that. My bad. But yeah, Colts just did not look great coming out of halftime, and Bengals. While I don't think they make the postseason, I think they might be pushing just miss territory. Like, and that is, I guess that's still pain because then if you just miss with Browning, obviously, then you go, we probably then make it with Burrow. So yeah, I guess pain is still fitting for the Bengals. But Colts, honestly, I have less faith in the Colts than I do the Broncos or the Browns at this point, personally.
Let me see here.
Colts have the
Yeah, I mean,
Steelers, the
the
Falcons,
Colts
and
will
the
probably
Raiders.
come down to the last week of the season, where they're home against Houston. I think the winner of that gets into the playoffs, and
Right,
I would pick the Texans to win that game.
right. All right, so let's swap out the Colts for Broncos and Brown. Oh, Jesus, I don't even feel good about that. Jeez, what is this season? But while we're talking about the Broncos actually put together a complete game, and they looked really good after a loss to the Texans. They bounced back strong against the Chargers, and now you'd expect them to beat the Chargers, especially without Justin Herbert and with Staley. But the thing with the Chargers and Broncos is those games are always weird. Ask any Broncos fan, they'll tell you the Chargers games they usually never make sense. It just they're always weird matchups between those two teams, and yet didn't look like it this time. Chargers were at home this time. I know they play again, but the Broncos will be home next time, and the Broncos completely demolished them.
Yeah, I mean, Herbert played a good chunk of that game, and he did not look good, let's just say that, against the Broncos. So, the Broncos defense looks like they're coming around after allowing 70 to Miami. So, yeah, I think this is a playoff caliber team, depending on the schedule.
Right.
Well, when you look at the Broncos, they actually now are, I think, a game behind in the division now, with Kansas City dropping 2 in a row. So they could potentially deal with the division with KC.
All right, let's look at their schedules.
And they do have the tiebreaker.
This is the interesting thing. The Broncos have the tiebreaker, but they currently have the Lions, who are on a massive skid and looking fraudulent. Then you have the Patriots, who, again, if you want to be a playoff team, you're destroying the Patriots. Then you have the Chargers again, and they just beat the Chargers this time. It's in Denver. Then you have the Raiders. Now the Raiders, again, division game, who knows? But at that point, the Broncos should win that. There's a good chance the Broncos go 4-0 to finish out the season. I
would argue that I would expect the Chiefs to close out the season 4-0 as well.
Who are they going to get? Oh, do they have similar opponents? They do. So they also have the Patriots, the Raiders, and the Chargers, and the only difference is they have the Bengals instead of the Lions. So yeah, I think the Chiefs have a better chance of winning the division then, if that's the case. If it's just a Lions matchup versus Bengals matchup difference. Yeah. So it's probably too little, too late for the Broncos, but still should be a playoff team regardless.
I could see the Broncos getting 3 more wins and going 10-7.
You know what we didn't consider, boys? Because we're talking about Chiefs and AFC. The Bills. Are the Bills gonna make it to the playoffs at this point?
The Bills are peaking.
They're peaking right now in December, and that's the time to peak. And if we really think about that game against the Eagles, that was insanely close, came down to the wire in crap conditions, and then the offense looked that good. And, they win that game if not for the Elliott field goal, which, I mean, it's Elliott. But, I think a lot of Bills fans, while that loss hurt, I think it's now starting to set in that, oh, wait, this team's here to play. Now, they do have the Cowboys next, which is going to be a true test of how good they're going to be. But after that, you have the Chargers and the Patriots, which, funny that all these teams trying to make the playoffs both play the Chargers, or all play the Chargers and Patriots. And then they close the season out against the Dolphins. And the Dolphins against teams with good talent have not been winning. I mean, they didn't even beat the Titans, and you could argue that was Derrick Henry that gave them problems. But, I don't know, man. I think the Bills might be peaking at this point. I could see a loss to the Cowboys, but the Cowboys have to go to Buffalo. And I don't know what the weather is, but if that's a snow game, who knows? Genuinely. I think...
I was watching that Kansas City game, and honestly, since they fired Ken Dorsey, which many people thought was a bad move, Josh Allen looked exceptionally better than Joe Brady. You can't deny that.
Yeah, I honestly, without Dell, I could see the Texans missing the playoffs because their offense looked horrible without Dell. Stroud looked horrible, and now again, Jets defense and everything. But without Dell, and how the Bills are currently playing, do we go the triple B, the Broncos, Browns, and Bills to the playoffs?
I can't.
I mean,
Browns, Bengals. I don't know, but
I trust the Texans and the Broncos more than I do the Browns, if I'm being honest.
Browns do play the Texans actually head to head in 2 weeks.
That's gonna be the decider.
All
That
right,
game, I feel like that game is the decider.
and I think, and honestly, if that's how bad the Texans offense looks against a good defense without Dell, how do you think they're going to stack up against the Browns defense? Like,
Well, I don't know if that's the norm or an anomaly. That's the thing. There's not, a large sample size.
I understand, but again, you put Stroud without his one of his top wide receivers against a strong defense, and they can't figure it out. I don't know. I think I give the Browns the edge in that game. Honestly, I definitely think the Bills are going to make it as the seventh seed. I think they're probably going to be the best seventh seed we've ever seen, and the only reason I say seven is because of where their record currently sits, and honestly, because of how
They'll go to Kansas City and get their ass kicked in the first round.
you say that, but they just beat KC. I get it was close, but honestly, with how inconsistent the league has been this season, I could see the seventh seed in the AFC winning.
Wait, you see the Browns
What's up?
just beat the Chiefs?
The Bills, the Bills, the Bills.
Oh, the Bills.
Yeah, I think
I
the
thought you were
Bill.
talking about the
No,
Broncos.
no, I think the Bills, unfortunately, because of where the record currently sits and all the tiebreakers, I think they're probably gonna end up finishing seventh. Um.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but we got to figure this out. Are we dropping the Texans or the Browns?
I go Texans.
I'm also.
All right, let's go Texans.
All right. That's ridiculous. If you told, I mean, the fact that the Bills are back in the playoffs, and I mean, even the Browns had a chance at the playoffs early in the season because of the roster and everything. So that wouldn't be honestly the playoff picture in the AFC. If it ends like this, the only surprise would be the Broncos. But like everybody thought that they might actually bounce back under Sean Payton. So I guess this wouldn't have been that surprising if you showed everybody the AFC playoff picture at the start of the season and said these would be the teams. I mean, people would be like, "Where are the Bengals?" But like, this wouldn't be that surprising
Yeah.
compared to what it could end up being. Which who knows? If you have the Texans or Colts in there, then yeah, things change. But yeah, okay. What's next? We have let's talk about no what let's talk about the Ravens. Ravens Rams. Besides Sean McVay and bad clock management, what were the takeaways from this game, Shreyas?
I mean, I saw it was. You can see why both. I mean, first off, I mean, yeah, people will question how well. I mean, people will say the Ravens got exposed. I mean, I looked at this as the typical. You're off the bye week, facing a super hot team. I mean, it was going to be tough. I mean, did I think the Ravens could have won by a bigger margin? Yeah, I could have thought that, but at the same time, I mean, the Ravens made the plays they had to make. The Rams also made the plays too to stay in the game. There's a reason why they were one of the hottest teams in the league going into this game, and why they're I think in the hunt for the wild card race. Overall, I mean, I'll give the Ravens like a B plus probably, because while there's still some things I thought they could have done better, they still made the plays they had to make in order to win. And defensively, yeah, I mean, that was not the typical Raven performance, but going up against one of the better quarterbacks, Matt Stafford. I mean, yeah, it was going to get ugly. I'll put it that way. I mean, the Ravens still put up 37 points, but it was still not the prettiest of performances.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, end of the game, there was definitely some questionable things. The refs definitely let both teams play. There were definitely pass interference against both teams at the end of that game. I saw in overtime in the fourth quarter. There was definitely some stuff both ways that probably should have been called, but they didn't call it. They let him play, which I'm fine with, honestly, as long as it's consistent. And yeah, the Ravens end up getting a win in the end.
The Rams could have easily won that game if not for, as you mentioned, bad management. There was, I mean, being the veteran coach and quarterback they are, Stafford and McVay should have been better. I mean, I think there was one play. The Rams could have won that game at the end of the fourth. had they managed that, had they had better management of the play clock. I think they had to burn a timeout because of it,
Right.
because of the bad management. Go to overtime. It's 3rd and 6. With likely you would get the first down if no delay of game was called.
Right.
So it was bad. And at the end of the day, I think the Ravens what they did what they did, took advantage of, and won the game on a great special teams play.
Right. I will say, based off this performance, I think Lamar's name is probably back in the MVP conversation, at least a little bit. I know last week we said he's probably fallen out of it at this point, but Lamar was solid in this game.
He was. I think I don't think he's like the clear-cut favorite like you would say with Dak Prescott or Tyreek Hill or Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
But I do think he is. Well, he warrants a mention.
Right.
Warrants a mention.
Also, Puka Nacua, is he going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, or do you think it's still going to be C.J. Stroud?
Puka still, I would say, because no one expected him to be this good.
Ollie's muted, damn. Yeah, honestly, most awards go to quarterback, so I'm going to say the voters probably go with Stroud, and oh, God, it's hard. It depends. If Stroud goes back to how Stroud's looked throughout the rest of the season for the remaining games, I'd say give it to Stroud, but if he trails off without Dell, I'd say give it to Puka. And Puka starts breaking more records, I'd say give it to Puka, but it's gonna be close. I don't think the votes will be that close, in all honesty, just because usually awards go to quarterbacks. But personally, I would probably give it to Puka if Stroud does not bounce back after this week. Alrighty, I think Rams still wild card tier, fine. In Ravens division, that's fine. Yeah, not much more to say. And so you give not much to say. Saints Panthers, and Panthers, yeah. Good lord, it was bad again. Everything was bad for the Panthers, and they looked horrible against the Saints. Bryce Young, he didn't turn the ball over, thank God, but he didn't look great. Derek Carr has now had 500 injuries this season and looked questionable at best. There was at one point where I think he was averaging 2 yards per pass. Derek Carr was. That changed by the end of the game, obviously, but yeah, 2 touchdowns, which is nice. Interception, not so good, and only 119 yards, which again, not great. So Derek Carr definitely is not the guy that they thought they were going to be getting when they brought him in. But again, solid win for the Saints, and this division continues to confuse me. I still think they end up losing out in the division, probably to the Bucks, who we'll talk about next year. But yeah, I don't think much has changed in that game. All right. Bucks Falcons. Now, this was an entertaining one. And good lord, was this interesting, because Mayfield was way more efficient, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, but only 144 yards, while Ritter threw for 347 yards, had a touchdown, but did have an interception. It was very different between these two teams. Godwin getting some more catches this game than we've seen in the past. Drake London went off in this game, 172 yards. Just insane stats from the Falcons. And they're starting to utilize their weapons, and somehow by utilizing their weapons,
Kyle Pitts appearance.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts appears. Drake London has a ton of receptions now. I don't believe Bijan got that much. Actually, he got the most carries. He just didn't have a lot of yards, but they did give it to him the most. Yeah, and Bijan actually had 54 receiving yards as well. So yeah, they actually used all their weapons, and what happens? They lose. Arthur Smith is going to be the most... See, I told you I had a reason guy ever. Because literally every time he does it his way, the Falcons somehow bullshit their way to a victory. And every time he listens to what the fans want, they somehow lose. I don't understand. They actually utilized all their weapons. Their weapons went off. All had great games. And somehow they lose. Baker Mayfield, man. I'm putting the Bucks in division, and Falcons are dropping back into NFC South.
And that's subject to change next week.
Yeah. Are we at a point, though, because of the Packers loss, are we at a point where we could see, the Falcons make in over the Packers and have 2 NFC South teams in the playoffs?
Oh, we did talk about that earlier this year, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
All right.
It's
Honest.
possible.
All right. Let me pull up the Falcons and the Packers' remaining schedule, because if somehow two NFC South teams make it, let's see who they got left. So they have the Panthers, which should be a win, based on how the Panthers have played. Then they have the Colts again. That should be a win, but we'll see. It is in Atlanta, so that's an advantage. Then you have the Bears, which could be close. Who knows? It's in Chicago on New Year's Eve. And then you finish the season against the Saints. And in all honesty, oh God. All right, I gotta see what the Packers are rocking with, because yeah, I could see, like, even if they lose that game to the Saints, I think they could potentially still make the. Okay, wait. Packers have a fairly interesting schedule as well. So they have the Bears and Vikings to end the season. They go Buccaneers, who I think they might lose to against Baker and the Bucks, but who knows. Then you have the Panthers. Okay, that's a win. Then you end the season against the Vikings and the Bears. And the Packers against division opponents? Who knows? Who knows who shows up? So I'm still gonna give the edge to the Packers as of right now over the Falcons, but I think the Falcons have. No, I'm not gonna say they've earned just miss just yet. I think they have to stay in NFC South. Keep the tradition alive. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at script. Let's look at Seahawks. Seahawks 49ers, and early in this game, it was kind of similar to Eagles 49ers, where the first quarter you went, is there actually a shot that the 49ers lose this game? And the Seahawks were keeping it close, keeping it interesting, and then the 49ers just kind of ran away with it as the game proceeded. Seahawks are up 10-7 at the end of the first. It was only 10-14 at the half, but then by the end of the game it was over. Obviously Seahawks just couldn't hold on, couldn't fight there against the 49ers. Definitely put up a better fight than they did last time, but I think the Seahawks are just going to be brutalized by the schedule to end the season, and yeah, I think they still stay in just miss. And 49ers, like we've said all throughout this, if you don't win the Super Bowl this year, you probably deserve to be laughed at, because this might be one of the weakest NFLs we have ever seen. Or you could argue it is the most it's the most evenly, teams are the most even in NFL history as they've ever been, because really is a week to week league now, and like we've said that for years, but this season has really demonstrated that. So I don't know if the 49, every team is necessarily worse than they were last year, or if just so many teams are better that it's led to more inconsistency, and even though they're better, they don't look better because it's inconsistent. So I don't know.
It might have something to do with the injuries to quarterbacks this season. I feel like there's just a lot more than usually is.
That's true. But again, a lot of the teams that didn't look great this week didn't even have injured Mahomes, not injured. Tua, not injured. I mean, he's probably playing through something, but Trevor Lawrence, it technically isn't injured. Lamar wasn't injured and played great, but it looked shaky against the Rams. Hurts, I mean, he has the leg thing he's playing through, but he's not out. Goff, not injured. So a lot of the teams that actually lost this week in the playoffs are not the injured team, are not the injured quarterback teams, which is interesting. Yeah. Oh, and if you have to roll with Drew Lock for the rest of the season, yeah, you're screwed anyway. Sorry, Drew Lock, but yeah, you know you're not that guy. All right. What's next? Let's talk about Lions Bears. So we talked about this last week, where the Lions have started to looking more and more fraudulent, and how they've been shaky, and how last time they played the Bears they almost lost. Well, this time they lost, and they lost bad. It wasn't like you're just sitting there going, oh, well, the Lions lost for most of that game, and there was no feeling of the Lions are coming back in this one. The Bears just, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's Justin Fields looks good or the Lions look bad, but I think Justin Fields might be back in the conversation of being the guy for the Bears. But I think this game was more on their defense. They picked off Goff twice. Goff, his Cinderella run has definitely come to an end at this point. He has not looked like the Goff of the early season anymore. Has not fallen off as hard as Josh Dobbs, and we'll get there. But yeah, Goff is not looking as good as we thought. And yeah, ugly division game for the Lions. And Lions, you are probably getting bounced in the first round.
Yeah, and the Lions' defense is, it's not very good. So if Goff isn't keeping them in the game, all it takes is, one bad play from Goff and the game is pretty much over.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely more work that needs to be done with that roster. There's a lot of promise there, but Lions fans, I'm sorry to break this to you, but this is not your year. You have a lot to look forward to, but yeah, you might need to search for a quarterback at some point. And I think they knew that, but then I think Goff started looking like, oh wait, he actually might be the guy, and we could build around him, and not looking like that anymore. So who knows? But yeah, unfortunate loss to the Lions there. However, their division is so bad that I don't think they're at all a threat of moving. And Bears, are we at a point with the Bears where they're not a just missed cat? Like, yeah, I guess they're still bad. The Bears are still bad. Like, I feel like we might need a tier between bad and like pain, but I don't even know what you'd call it. Just like, no, the Bears are bad. Let me not talk myself into thinking the Bears are good. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Speaking of teams that are bad, Raiders, you got shut out in what was probably the ugliest game ever. And now, if you see a game almost end 0-0, and 3 points only being scored at the very end of the game, you're probably thinking, oh, was it rainy? Was there snow? What were the conditions? Was it windy? This game was played indoors. Let that sink in. This game was played indoors and finished 3-0 and was 0-0 throughout most of the game. Now, Josh Dobbs got benched, and Josh Dobbs did not look good. Mullins didn't look that much better. Also, I believe we have to add Mullins to our quarterback tier list this week, so that's great. Another one to add to the pile. But Aiden O'Connell, again, not looking great. Just a lot of bad quarterback play in this game. And, the other thing, Vikings fans, Justin Jefferson taken to the hospital because of a chest injury to start the game. So that's great. So glad I drafted him with my first pick in fantasy. Kill me. So Justin Jefferson's back out. And, yeah, things just not going well. Vikings do end up getting the win in the end, but it's not going to be enough to make the playoffs. And I think this season is not just miss anymore. I think this has to go down to pain because you lost Kirk Cousins, and now when you finally thought you were getting Justin Jefferson back, he's back out, and your Josh Dobbs, your Nick Foles like Cinderella run is over. Josh Dobbs has been demoted to the bench. So yeah, Vikings, you are down in pain, my friends. Hey, look at that! Except for the Falcons, pain is actually looking like pain usually looks like. Chargers, Bengals, Jets, Vikings. You know what, Falcons? By the end of the season, you could do it. You could get there. And it will be the most accurate pain tier ever. The fact that those four teams are experiencing the most pain this season is the funniest thing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Falcons, come on. You can do it. Some way, somehow. Get down there. Anyway. Yeah, that game was dreadful. All right, we talked to Chargers, Broncos, Bills, Chiefs. Oh, yeah, let's, I know we talked about the Bills and we talked about the Chiefs. I do want to just touch on the Mahomes complaining is some of the worst complaining I've ever seen. Tony was clearly offsides, and that whole thing about it ruins Travis Kelce's legacy and the play's cool, and so it should stand, and we shouldn't have flags deciding games. Mahomes, let's go back to your most recent Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure you won that off a ticky-tack call. So, if flags should decide games because coolness factor and whatnot, you should have lost the Super Bowl then, buddy. But, yeah, the constant complaining, everybody's like, well, he's friends with Josh Allen, so that's all. But you could see Josh Allen's face. He's like, what the hell? And then Andy Reid coming out and, like, talking about it, saying it's embarrassing. The only thing that was embarrassing is how far offsides Tony was. I'm sorry, but Chiefs... Yeah. You cannot sit here and complain about the refs after what's been happening all season. And like it is such a loser mentality, and Mahomes has kind of had a villain arc this season. I feel everybody's like they got their second Super Bowl, and everybody's like, okay, I've kind of had enough of the Chiefs. And then the refs have been helping them, and Mahomes is whining after every single play to the refs to throw another flag, and they'll get them. And now all this, Mahomes and the Chiefs, I think, have officially hit Brady and the Patriots tier of nobody likes you anymore, and please shut up and go away. I don't want to see you anymore.
Well, I told you this before. I don't think Mahomes is like mad about the refs themselves. More so heartbroken that the refs, portrayed him as, their best friends, and that really must be heartbreaking for him. So I can understand where his anger is coming from, actually.
If somebody told me there was going to be a breakup that impacted the Chiefs this season, I would have told you it had to be Taylor Swift. I did not think it was going to be with the refs. Let's get Taylor. I genuinely hope Taylor Swift writes a breakup song about the refs and the Chiefs. Please. That'd be amazing.
I'd go so hard.
Oh my god.
I'm already she's already number one in my Spotify recap, whatever it was. She's about to shoot up even higher.
I didn't know you were a Swiftie, Ollie. All right.
I was in the top 3% of Taylor Swift listeners this year.
I don't know whether to believe that or if you're just saying that to make me laugh, but hey, I'll take you at your word.
I got the screenshots. Don't worry about it.
Damn. All right, Swiftie Ali. Alrighty. Let's get into Sunday Night Football now, and oh boy, Eagles. I don't know what's going on. Hurts not looking great, obviously, but AJ Brown completely out of it. He just kept dropping passes. The Devontae Smith fumble didn't help. Hurts fumble didn't help. And while the refs, again, early kind of, we talked about this against the 49ers. The refs early did not help. It definitely, the first couple drives, it felt like, okay, we're in Jerry World. Refs were paid off. It's kind of how it felt to begin the game. But that does not dictate, you cannot let that dictate the entire game. And the refs did chill out as the game went on, and the Eagles still looked bad. You have to control what you can control, and the Eagles didn't. They were bad. They were bad on defense. They were bad on offense. The play calling was horrible. Desai and Brian Johnson at this point are both looking like questionable hires. I know hiring from within is usually seen as a positive. I'm starting to think with how good this roster was, that may have been a mistake for the Eagles. While I don't think Gannon was any better, Steichen is a huge loss to this team clearly. And another huge loss that's going underrated, TJ Edwards, losing him as a linebacker, huge. Howie Roseman's never been huge on prioritizing linebacker, and it's starting to show this season. And while Leonard looked decent in the snaps he did play, he didn't play enough to show us anything really spectacular, so who knows. And yeah, the Cowboys looked really good. Dak looked efficient, and they just came to play. Now, if the Eagles win out, they still win the division, which I think is very likely, seeing that they have Drew Lock and the Seahawks, and then they have their revenge game against Gannon and 2 games against the Giants. So I still think it's very likely the Eagles win out. But yeah, this is starting to get concerning. You do not want to start having a downward trend come to December. And yeah, not good. It just, while the refs, early controlled a bit of that game, it was not the ultimate factor that made the Eagles lose, and I will gladly admit the Eagles beat themselves and the Cowboys destroyed them. It was a bit of both. The refs didn't help, but they didn't determine the game either.
Alright, why not? Y'all got your asses kicked. That's pretty much what you were getting at there, but the Eagles should be fine winning the division if they win out.
Yeah,
they definitely will.
I still think their division's here. I think the Cowboys have a way more difficult schedule. They got the Bills upcoming. They still have to play. Don't they still have to play the Dolphins and the Lions as well?
Well, that's the thing. If both the Eagles and the Cowboys win out, the Eagles will still win the division.
Right. And I don't even think the Cowboys will win out at this point. So if both if both go 3-1, the Eagles still get it. Like, the Cowboys' schedule to end the season is brutal versus the Eagles. So, and that's the other thing I keep seeing. Yes, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and act like the Cowboys didn't just destroy the Eagles. But I keep seeing this argument of the Eagles are just the Vikings of last year. Look at the point differential. I'm sorry. It's not even close to the same. The reason the point differential is different is not because the Eagles have been bad in games. It's because they literally were playing the toughest schedule at the beginning of the season. They went through the gauntlet. They've played insanely hard teams, and they still have 2 games against the Giants. Now, I get it, the Eagles haven't been blowing teams out, but you're going to sit here and tell me the team that they blew out 3 times last season, the Eagles aren't going to beat again bad like twice this season? So, like, get out of here with the point differential shit until the season's over. Then we can talk about it. But, yeah, Eagles need to get things together. Guys don't look like there are definitely things wrong with the leadership group as well. AJ looked disinterested throughout the game. Apparently, he called somebody on the Cowboys old, and then got lit up by that dude all game defensively. And then you have Slay going right after the game, retweeting a thing about the pass interference, which, again, not a great look from the leadership. The only thing I will say, for anybody saying, see, this is why they should be making Christmas songs, blah, 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 it's a distraction. That Christmas album was recorded in July of last year. It's just being released now. It's nothing to do with the Christmas album. That was in July of last year, all right? Like,
Well, same thing with Baker and his progressive commercials. Remember those?
yeah.
Well, like I was gonna say, those were recorded during the off season when people memed on them for that. It's just fun to meme on people for these
Oh,
things.
no, I know, but I'm genuinely seeing Eagles fans coming out and be like, these guys aren't focused. They're more focused on the Christmas. Like, I'm genuinely seeing Eagles fans have that take. And it is so dumb.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It's bad right now. I mean, Bilal's whole rant about how he's done with the Eagles and that this team's nothing. Like, again, if you told me throughout that entire stretch of that gauntlet that they had that they'd only lose 2 games, I would have been thrilled to hear that. Like, now, though, it's different because those 2 losses came in back-to-back games, and it was ugly losses, so I'm less thrilled now. But at the beginning of the season, if you told me they'd only lose 2 to the 49ers, Cowboys twice, Bills, Chiefs, and Dolphins and whatnot, like, if you told me we'd only lose 2 of those games, I would have been thrilled.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bilal is reactionary, so it is what it is.
That I am back. All right, sorry about that. I had to deal with something real quick. Yeah, Eagles got blown out. I still think we leave those teams where they are, but yeah, that could change. All right, Packers Giants, and then let's get through these Monday night games real quick. Packers Giants. Packers. What the hell happened here? Tommy DeVito and the Giants are now 1 game out of a playoff spot, which it's not going to happen because they're going to lose probably twice to the Eagles at the very least to end their season, so they're not making it. But still, Jordan Love wasn't horrible, wasn't great. Just I don't even know what to say. It just, the defense was not good for the Packers, and we kind of saw that coming. Although it wasn't that bad either. Like, DeVito only had 158 yards, but Barkley Barkley went off for 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. It just, I don't know. It was like neither team looked great, but yet like, if you showed me all the stats in that game and told me somehow the score ended 24-22, I wouldn't have believed you. Because neither team looked that great, but yeah, Packers, you can't lose games like that in the playoff hunt, but because of the NFC, I think they might be safe still.
I think this is one of those things where Matt LaFleur saw DeVito's agent before the game and got scared that he might have mob connections, so he kind of threw the game, as was Jordan Love, who literally threw the game. So yeah, I feel like that's just what happened. Don't think too much into it. The Packers should still make the playoffs.
Yep. All right, and finally, Titans, Dolphins. I don't know what to say. Like, I genuinely have no idea what to say about this game. The Dolphins shouldn't have lost this game. They were up. The Titans scored 15 points to end the game. Like, and everybody's saying it's the fastest team to score that many points with 3 minutes left. They got the ball with over 4 minutes left, first of all. Yes, the scores came from 3 minutes and less, but they had the ball with 4 minutes left, so it's a little misleading, the stat. But yeah, Dolphins
Definitely.
defense completely sold at the end of that game. I and like it's crazy because going into the half, the Dolphins were losing. Then the Dolphins start to look like the Dolphins in the second half, and you go, okay, here's the Dolphins. Titans are gonna lose. It was good while it lasted. Things are gonna play out normally, and then just everything fell apart. And I have no idea how that happens. Dolphins again are gonna be fine because the Bills are too far back, like at this point, to challenge for the division. So the Dolphins will make the playoffs, but that was ugly. That was a really ugly way to lose. And shout out to the Titans because that was impressive. I still think they're bad. Like, they're not a good team, but that was an impressive win.
Yeah, usually the Dolphins step it up at home. I'm surprised that they choked this one away. Like, I could understand if maybe they were on the road, and the Titans got a scrappy win. Then
Right.
yeah, I could see that. But the Dolphins at home this season against teams that haven't been very good. All their losses this season came on the road thus far. They're undefeated at home.
Right.
So you're fully expecting them to be able to pull this one out fairly easily, and they should have, if not for that late game collapse.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that the Dolphins should be able to get home field in the playoffs. Because they'll only be playing in, one playoff game, and it will be a home field game. So they'll have home field in the playoffs.
Right. I genuinely think the AFC, like, if you told me if you told me in 50 years, 1 year, every single wild card team in the AFC, after they expanded to the 7th seed, beat every single division team in the AFC. This would be the 1 year I believe that could happen. Like, I'm not saying that the necessarily are the best teams, but like, Browns defense, all you need is their defense to show up 1 week, and they could win. The Broncos look way better, so they could win a game. And the Bills, if they make it, they might be one of the best wild card teams ever to be in it. They're kind of wild card because coaching was bad and they were inconsistent, but they've gotten hot. So I genuinely think the AFC is at a point where you could literally see 3 upsets in the first round. It's not going to happen, but it could happen.
I'm still convinced the 7th seed will never win a game for as long as I live until they get rid of the 7th seed.
That's
So
fair.
I'm just petty like that.
That's fair, but if the Bills are a 7th seed, I think it could have. I think this would be the year.
Oh, I mean, I don't even know if the Bills are gonna get that 7th seed, or maybe even the Browns lose out, and the Bills end up as the 6th seed. Like,
Right.
who knows what happens?
Right. This definitely feels like one of those years where it could happen just because of how inconsistent every team has been. I do think the NFC's a little clearer. Like, I still think the 49ers, the Eagles, and Cowboys all advance to the next round. But, like, Lions, who knows? And, I mean, we're all saying the Eagles and Cowboys, whoever's in that spot, beats the NFC South. But, I mean, there could be an upset. So it's very unpredictable this season. And if I was a betting man, I would not be betting on the playoffs this year. Because unless you're just saying 49ers win the Super Bowl, that's fine. But if you're trying to predict, like, the whole thing, you are not going to win that bet, my dude. Like, it's just not happening. Alrighty. Anyway, that'll wrap us up for this week, or for this week's review of Week 14 of the NFL. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll hopefully be back Thursday. If not, definitely Friday. Should be back Thursday, though, to preview this upcoming week of the NFL, Week 15, and we'll be looking over the quarterback tier list. Definitely some more things to look at, some more backups that played, some more guys looking either better or worse. So, yeah, things are going to get interesting on Thursday. But thanks once again, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Shreyas, who was here temporarily, for joining me today. And yeah.